Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today, with the new D&D series minifigure revealed, I want to show you some custom minifigures you can make if you love the minifigures but aren't a big D&D fan. First up, I've got these three witches. These could be sisters or blood sisters or just friends, or as much as you can be friends when you're a witch. I don't really know, but I think they actually all came out really well. They all use a few parts from the witch minifigure from this series, but they're all customized to be a bit unique. I've used two heads from the second Marvel CMF series, and they actually both work surprisingly well. A few of the parts are from other minifigures in this series, and I've placed them around this cauldron to make them look like they're making some potion, probably singing some song as stereotypical witches do. I think they all look creepy and would fit really nicely into a medieval world. They all use realistic skin tone colors, so if you want you can change it for yellow, but with these D&D minifigures it looks like it might be becoming more easier to make a fantasy world and not use yellow skin tones as much. Next up, if you're not really into fantasy but grabbed a few of these minifigures, I've made this custom rebel warrior using the head from the tiefling I believe it is, and then this headpiece from Ahsoka Tano. This minifigure then becomes a sort of same species as Ahsoka, but not a Jedi, and you don't have to make a rebel minifigure. This was just an easy one I found. You could make another Jedi, you could make Ahsoka's parents I guess, but I just thought this is a useful head. If you're not into medieval stuff, it could be a good head for Star Wars. If you can think of a different alien species, of course that works too, but I thought it looked good as another Ahsoka species minifigure. The next minifigure I've made also uses the witch's legs from this series. Along with this plate armor torso, I've made this sort of warrior with this long orc sword as I call it, and this round shield. The dark color scheme works well, and like I said, it's realistic skin tones because I'm finding it easier and easier to make a medieval LEGO world with realistic skin tones. But whatever head you use, I just think these legs really match the torso very well. Even if you make a completely different minifigure and all you keep is the torso and the legs, it still works rather well. The next minifigure uses the torso from the Mind Flayer I think it is. I really like this shoulder armor printing, and it's got a little bit of purple on it. I've used the minifigure Thanos' head for this minifigure, and I've given him the big buffy hair because it deserves to be a bigger minifigure, but I don't have very many parts that make him look too much bigger, so that's what I've gone with for now. I've also given him this big shield to block enemies and a massive sword, which I don't love this sword piece, but I thought it worked with him, so I went with it for now. Next we have this sort of wilderness warrior. I thought she could be the leader of a tribe that doesn't really have a kingdom as such, but they're still trained warriors. They sort of live out in the forest, like the guys out of Robin Hood. This isn't the best minifigure on the list because the head kind of matches the same color as the shoes, and it makes her look like she's got no boots on, but maybe if you change the head it'll look better, or maybe you don't mind it like this, but I do think she looks rather cool, and I think the olive cape works nicely with the navy robes. This angry face print is very good, and it's much better than the male head from the dwarf minifigure. Speaking of which, I have made here a warrior. I used the torso and legs from a bear knight, and I've used the goofier looking face from the male dwarf's head. Now it's not a great head because the orange on the brown head doesn't look very good. It doesn't show up super well, but I sort of thought with the goofy sort of smile he's got here, using this orange carrot top hairstyle sort of works well with him, and he looks like more of a goofy character. I don't know if I've chosen the best torso and legs for him. I'm gonna have a look around, see what other pieces I have, but I just thought since I'm gonna be getting this head, if I'm gonna be buying a few dwarf minifigures, I may as well try to find a way to use it, and this is what I think works well. You could also maybe use brown hair, it might look well, but whatever you're happy with. Maybe you love this head, it definitely brings more options, but I just thought this hairpiece is the best I could find to match the beard print. The next minifigure is this bird minifigure. Now the bird minifigure on this list is probably my least favorite. It is a bit like Chima. I don't dislike it because the torso is very good, and I think it's a cool head mold. It's just not super useful, but I've managed to make this bird minifigure using a Chima torso and this new clawed feet from the Series 25 Vulture Woman. It uses her legs and a Chima torso like I said, and then these gold claws. The new head from the bird minifigure works well as a whole, along with the wings. It's not the coolest looking minifigure ever, but at least it all matches, and maybe if you've got a more fantasy medieval world you can find a place for this guy. Now the next minifigure are these red dead skeleton guys. I think these are some of the coolest from the series. Like I said, I don't play D&D, so maybe this is a one-off character, but for me I thought I'd buy two more and then have three of them, and then get this dark evil wizard. I was thinking he could be a dark wizard who's got an army of orcs, but he's losing the war, so he turns to this really dark magic, and he raises these three dead necromancers, and I'm going to give them each a different cape. As you can see here, I've given this one Doctor Strange's. I'll maybe leave one with the original one that he comes with, and then another one I'll just find a cloak for, and I thought they could all be very similar but slightly different, and they're each an evil necromancer from a long time ago, sort of inspired by the Lord of the Rings and the Ahsoka TV show, how Thrawn has the 3 sisters or whatever. Basically, that's what I thought, and I've tried to make it look like this guy's skeleton head is floating, and I think it looks pretty cool. I'm gonna buy 2 more of those minifigures like I said, and hopefully it'll look good. Next, the Dragon Paladin. This is one of the best minifigures in the series because the silver armor is amazing and it'll be great for army building. For one of the custom minifigures, what I've done is remove the armor piece, which looks very good, but I just didn't want it at the moment, and given him this white cloak. The newer ones are softer and I think look better along with the silver, but if you have an older white cloak, I'm sure that works too. I've given him this head and hair piece, which I bought on Pick-a-Brick, but I think is from a Harry Potter set, and I think it looks very good, this cheerful guy, and I thought maybe he could be from a richer kingdom since they're clad in white and silver, and he's maybe not been to too many wars, but you know, he's got his shield and his sword anyway, and the nice print of the necklace or whatever looks quite good, and overall I think it's a good minifigure. You can also put the armor back on, and I like this head and hair combo I've got here, the sort of receding brown hair and this big bushy mustache. If you put it instead of the younger head, along with the chest plate piece, it looks pretty good. And for when he's going into battle, I've also made him this big silver helmet with a blue plume to match his shield color. Now, the bird minifigure might not be my favorite, but like I said, I like the torso. So what I've done here is I've grabbed the torso from that minifigure, got the legs from the goat herder from series 25, and I've got this old green mask piece from a few series ago. As soon as I saw this torso, I thought this mask will work very well. I've also given him a crossbow and a quiver of arrows, and I think he looks like a cool forest warrior. I think he's a good hunter minifigure, just to maybe bulk up if you've got a forest even or something, looks very good. Back to the Dragon Knight Paladins. If you are going to be army building them, a good thing you'll need is a king. Here's one that I've made. I think it looks quite good. This crown and hair combination is great. If you don't have it, I'm very sorry. Try to get it on Bricklink. It is older, so it's probably more expensive, so hopefully LEGO re-releases this again, but I think it looks very good with the silver armor because it matches the gold accents with the crown piece, and overall makes for a good leader if you are, like I said, gonna be army building these guys. Another use I found for the tiefling minifigure is the hair piece. This works really well with this old Nauticon minifigure. Ninjago fans might be killing me for disassembling this minifigure, but with this Scottish kilt piece from an old Batman minifigure, I think this looks like a cool fantasy blacksmith, and I think it looks really good. You can also maybe use this apron piece from the castle set and the blacksmith set, and again, it makes for a cool blacksmith, and he's not wearing anything on his torso, so he's likely to get burnt, but maybe he could be a fire creature or something, which I believe tieflings maybe are. And I've also used the tail piece here, and I think this is a really good simple minifigure. Like I said, if you're making a more fantasy world, works really well. The short-legged forest minifigure is a great minifigure from this series, and the torso is probably the best piece in my opinion. I've kept the torso and the head here and made this custom wanderer minifigure. He's got a horn on his belt. He's got his little pouch, of course, he's got his stick, and he's got the new knife piece. I've given him this hood piece, which I don't like as much as the old hood piece, but the old hood piece doesn't really work with this. I have to twist his head sideways so that it stays on. But either way, I think it looks a cool color scheme, especially with this green and brown backpack. It does make him look like he's a traveler, and he's got this little walking stick with him, and like I said, a knife for cutting things down and maybe defending himself if it comes to that. I think this torso is really amazing. It's got a printed on pouch on it, because even though the LEGO satchel is an awesome piece, sometimes it can get in the way of arms and make it hard to move your minifigure a bit. So the print on here is really nice, and means you can give him a different accessory like the backpack I've given him and still have him have an extra pouch. And he even has 2 pouches here with the little pouch with the leaves sticking out. It's been years since LEGO's made a dwarf minifigure, so to be able to get the dwarf minifigure in this series has been great. The torso is really nice. I don't know exactly how I feel about the axe necklace. It feels a bit too modern to me, but it is a cool detail, and I definitely love the arms on this minifigure. I've grabbed the yellow head here from the Bear Knight from a few years ago, and I've used these tan mini movable legs because it's got this patch on it, and I just think it adds more detail. And I've made a custom dwarf with this rubber beard piece from Pirates of the Caribbean. This piece I'm gonna imagine is a bit expensive by now, so I'm very grateful to have it. But if you've got any sort of minifigure beard pieces, maybe you've got a lot of the Hobbit, I think you can make a cool army of dwarves. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I think I'm gonna try. I'll buy a few more minifigures from this series, and then I'll grab all my Viking helmets and any beard pieces I have and try to make a cool army with those. And this new axe piece and this circle shield match really well together, especially with, like I said, the Viking helmet, and it makes for an awesome dwarf army, which I didn't know I needed. The last minifigure I've got for you today is pretty simple, but one of my favorites. It's this tavern lady, and I've used these torso and robe print from old CMFs, and I've given her a glass bottle and a glass goblet. I've used the female face from, I don't know what you call this minifigure, but I've made her look stern and I've given her the hairpiece she comes with because I just imagine she's an annoyed barmaid. The thing about this is some people don't like to mix their yellow and the realistic skin tones, but because she's got all these like tattoos or whatever it is on her face and these elfish ears, you get away with saying she's just a different species and therefore make more yellow minifigures into your medieval world and bulk up your world a bit. So I think these D&D minifigures really gave us a lot of options for medieval worlds. Let me know any you came up with, and thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see what else I can make with these, and I'll see you next time. Pieces.